Okay, good evening. We will call the 2020 Truth and Taxation meeting to order. We will begin by the reciting of the Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner Szymanski, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Please all rise.
Mr. Chair, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner. Okay. Well, the obvious exists that we are holding this meeting virtually and in person, which will hopefully go smoothly, but may lead to some technical difficulties, which we will address as we go through. The first thing we need to do, because not all commissioners are present in the room, is call for a roll of the commissioners. So, gentlemen, please indicate that you're here when I call your name. Commissioner Szymanski?
Here.
Commissioner Wright? Commissioner Wright?
Here.
Commissioner Pohlmeyer?
Here.
I'm not sure if Commissioner Kruger is with us. Commissioner Kruger?
Here.
Oh, very good. Welcome, Doug. Commissioner Nagel is present. All right, just some opening comments. The meeting purpose today, what it is for, is to review the 2021 proposed budget and tax levy, seek public comment, and have discussion. What it is not is to discuss taxable market values on specific parcels and property classifications are not a topic for discussion. The 2020 values and classification for tax payable in 2021 are finalized at the County Board of Appeal and Equalization meeting in June 16, 2020. What we will discuss, though, is a little bit of the process of how that looks and how that works. I think there's some questions regarding timing and what goes on. But again, for us to analyze your parcel or property regarding its value today is not something that we will do or even can. This is not the right audience for that. But we can talk about the process and how that goes with our assessor, and I think she plans to do that. That being said, we will move on to our assessor, Sue Schultz. And if you would please, Sue, you can go ahead and go through your presentation. And then remember that there are some people in the room that really want to talk about how the process goes and how do we get to this point specific to the property tax statements.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Nagel. My name is Sue Schultz. I'm the county assessor. Our process and our responsibility in our office is purely value and classification. We actually view properties every 5 years. We go out to them and get any kind of information, building information, structural information. And then the appraisers that do this, they bring it back to our office and they will put that into what's called a CAMA system. CAMA is for computerized mass appraisal. And what that does is it computes the value for each individual properties and come up with a base value. Can you go to the next screen, please? So the next step in our process after we determine a base value is to analyze the sales that come through in our office. So we get what's called a certificate of real estate value, and what that does is it tells us what the sale price of the property is to what our assessed value is. We look at if there's any improvements. We actually call the buyer and the seller to make sure that the information is correct, make sure there wasn't any changes to the property due to if they'd done some improvements after January 2nd. We make sure that those sales are arm's length transactions so that we can compare them to our value. If the market value on a property increases or more or less than an average increase, then that can cause a shift of property taxes to that property. Next screen, please. So this is an example, or this is not, it's an actual report. So on the first screen here, we do have the cities on the next one, but on this one here, it's the townships. And what happens when a sale comes through, like I said, is we look at their sale price and we compare it to our assessed value. We are supposed to be between 90 and 105% by statute. So depending upon where the ratios come in at, we take all the sales and we put them in order, and we look at that median number, the middle number, and that middle number has to be above 90. The state has a threshold of 6 good sales. So if there's 6 or more good sales, qualified sales, then we are required by law to adjust values to get us above or below our threshold. So if it's below 90, we need to raise value. If it's above 105, we need to reduce value. So on the screen here, it gives each township in their ratio. There were no commercial sales or industrial or apartment sales, and those areas are blank in the rural area. And it gives you the number of sales. So if you look through there, Coma, the first one, our ratio was 101%. So even though our threshold is 105, if we get above 100, we do reduce value. So Coma's values actually went down this year a little bit. As you go down, there are some taxing districts that saw some significant increases because of their ratio. Glencoe Township was at 79%. So they had to see some significant increases to get them above that 90%. Part of this process, what happens then, is that there's a class shift then, or tax shift, I should say, on properties. So if a Coma is going down and their share of the burden is going down, then some other taxing district is going to have to pick it up. And when you have significant increases on certain taxing districts, they have a tendency to see a significant increase on their property taxes due to that shift of value from one taxing entities, or even a class shift. So on the next screen, please. So on the next screen, we have all the cities, and on there we do have some commercial, industrial, and apartment sales. So there again, on this situation here, like in Hutchinson, the city, the residential, we adjusted the residential very slightly. They were at 90%, so we just gave them a little bit of an inflation adjustment. But the commercial took a hit this year. Their ratio was at 69% with 8 sales. And so what's happening, there is that they're seeing maybe a more significant increase on their commercial property taxes due to the fact that their needed increase in the residential not going up that much. We did raise apartments as well. Not, Hutch a little bit, and Glencoe more so, just because of where the sales, even though there's few sales, we don't get that many sales. So we struggle a little bit in the areas where they don't have a lot of information of trying to adjust to market. We are supposed to be at 100% of market, but like I said, our range is between 90 and 105. So the areas of commercial sales too, where we get very little information, is challenging trying to figure out what the actual market is. In Hutchinson, we had some properties that just took off, and we got left a little bit in the behind. We had been for the past couple of years right around that 90%, and then there was properties that just sold significantly higher than what we had them assessed at.
Stuart, this is Joel. So sorry for interrupting.
No, you're fine.
So just do me a favor, everybody that presents tonight, watch the public podium. If there's a question, we're going to have them go up there, and that's what we're at right now. So, Mr. Dahl, if you'd like to address Sue with a question, that'd be fine.
Yeah. So, Tom Dahl, could you just go back one screen? I want to go back to the townships.
Okay.
There we go. So, if we got a Coma at 101%, then you've got others sitting at 81, 79, below the 90 threshold, I'll say it that way. Am I to assume that the Coma residents then are paying a larger portion of the taxes for McLeod County?
No, the ratio is just a set of values, where the sales are coming through at. So for pay 21, because of where that number was at, we reduced your values for pay 21. So your tax burden is less than the ones that are where we're increasing them.
Okay, but So you're saying, no, we do not pay more because we're at 101%.
No, you do not.
Okay, so my next question, Sue, would be, how do others, like, I'll pick on Helen Township, how are they at 79% and Tacoma Township at 101? What happened?
Well, it's really basically what we do is I don't know how to explain it that really would make sense. When the sales come through, you know, what we try to do is we come up with that base value. So like I explained a little bit earlier, we look at what the property characteristics are. Sometimes certain areas take off, and we historically, the eastern side of the border, because that we join Carver County, historically we do have higher values over there. So even with the, you know, our ratio is lower, but our values are actually higher over there just because of where the proximity to the eastern side of it. So we do our best. You know, our responsibility is to make sure that we're fairly and equitably assessing somebody. So where the sales come in at, they come in at. So an example I give is if a property, same property was sold, or not sold, built, and you said Helen Township, and the same exact land, everything was built in Tacoma Township, their base value would be the same. We went, you know, that's part of the mass appraisal basis where you value like property similarly. So their base values would be identical. What changes it is the market. And sometimes trying to grab that market when you only, like in Helen Township, we only had 4 sales. You know, historically we get 1 or 2 sales in a township. The sales have been up the past couple of years, but it's not uncommon, you know, like Wrong Grove, we have 1. It's a challenge to try to determine a market adjustment when you have very few sales. But we do try to do that. We try to estimate what the adjustments are going to be for the market. Sometimes we're a little bit high, sometimes we're a little bit low. Our responsibility though isn't to hit that actual, you know, dollar amount. So we're not supposed to hit the sale price. Well, we are, but so in the end, if 2 similar properties sell side by side, and we had this happen in Hutchinson quite a bit, where they do a development and all the houses are basically identical, and one will sell for 180,000 and one would sell for 220,000, and it did. And this is actual happen. It was quite a few years ago, but it did happen. You know, most of our values were right around that 180. So we were high on the one sale, and yet we're low on other sales because of that. We have to make sure, because our responsibility is to make sure that everybody's taxed equitably. Our responsibility is to make sure that if it's a similar property, they're assessed similarly. The sales that come through are just that, they're sales. They're an indication of whether or not we're high or low on our value, but we are still supposed to be where we treat all properties similarly. So we will be high on sales and we will be low on sales. I mean, that's just the nature of the business.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep. Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Thank you, Sue. Go ahead and get to where you need to on your presentation. And go ahead.
So actually, we can go to the next screen. So with all those changes that were done, overall, our value changes are on the screen here. So our agricultural, there's no increase. We were in our mid 90s, so we left them alone. Residential, the average increase was 6%. Commercial industrial, the average increase was 3%, and then apartments did see a bigger hit of a 17% increase. So those are, as a county as a whole. So obviously there's ones that are higher and lower than that. The next screen, please. So here's a comparison of values. This is assessment 2020 to comparing to what we were at in 2019. So as you can see, I mean, for the most, agricultural stayed the same. Residential was a slight increase. The rest of them overall, there wasn't a lot of changes overall. I mean, obviously there was some significant changes in certain properties, but not overall. Next screen, please. And then this is my last screen. And this is just a new construction. This is important because this helps create a bigger tax base for the county, which helps spread the burden of the property taxes. So we've had some pretty good years of, even from 19 to 20. We have seen even some more increases on our new construction, which is a good thing for our county. Is there any questions? I mean, it went through it very quickly.
Okay, if there's any questions for Sue, I'll obviously be able to watch the room, and we talked about the public podium piece. If anybody's online and has a question and is struggling to get my attention, just type something in the chat, and Hannah and Sheila and everybody that's on will help get my attention to make sure that you have those questions answered. But with that, seeing no one here and no, Tony, go ahead. Yep, Tony, go ahead with your question.
Yep, Sue, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
So in the presentation you just gave, you showed that there's going to be a 6% increase in residential. Is that across the board, across all townships and towns, or is that in the select ones where you had to adjust for the 90 to 105?
No, the 6% is the average of the county. So, the two screens back for the townships gave, or back a couple of screens, gave them by individual. So if you go back two more, I'm sorry, on that one there. So like in Winston Township, your ratio was 92%. So there was a very little adjustment that we did in Winston Township. So the 6% is just an average of the county as a whole, but each taxing entity has their own ratio and can vary a lot.
Okay. Second question then, so on the commercial side, so if you go to the next slide, whoever's running the presentation, it showed that there in the commercial properties, there was going to be some adjustments down and some adjustments up. So the average, I think on the next slide, then you showed was going to be what, a 2 or 3% increase only?
A 3%, yes.
Okay.
So yeah, so this screen here is just the average of the county as a whole.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. That's it.
Tony, anything else, Tony?
Nope, I'm good, John.
All right, so with no other questions, Sue is going to stay here. Typically what would happen now is Sue would go off into a separate room and meet with property owners and schedule some times to discuss the questions regarding individual parcels or properties. Here there's a sign-up sheet for that, and if there's anyone online that wishes to do that, just go ahead and put that in the chat, and one of us will make sure we get your information, and Sue will get a hold of you. Sue's going to stay on the presentation throughout, so if you think of a question later, feel free to ask. I show Connie, our auditor treasurer, is next. Is that correct?
Yes, thank you. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, good evening. So yes, that's the correct slide. Thank you, Liz. I am going to talk up on this slide about the property tax levy. You divide that by the tax capacity, the tax base, you will get the tax rate. So what are impacts to levies? The number and scope taxing authorities, and then off to the right, I've listed the McLeod County taxing authorities. Of course, we have one state, one county. We have 9 cities, 14 townships, 7 schools, 5 special taxing districts, and 14 TIF districts for 2021 payable. The other impacts to levies could be service demands and mandates, federal and state property tax aids and other revenues, state imposed levy limitations, classifications, or tier limits. And then impacts to the tax base would include exemptions, exclusions, special valuations and deferments, and tax base definitions and classification. Next slide, please. So of the taxing authorities, this slide shows the distribution of the property tax dollars. So of the dollars collected, the cents on the chart represent where the tax settlement goes. So for townships, it's 4%, cities 25%, schools 26%, special districts 1%, excuse me, state general tax 6%, and the county 40%. So you might ask, what does the county do for that 40%? We maintain the roads, as an example, a few examples here. We maintain property tax records, we protect the environment, we protect the health of the communities, we provide justice, and we provide protection. Next slide, please. My next slide includes the net tax levy by fund for McLeod County. So the totals are on the bottom. In 2019, the total levy was $22,614,592. In 2020, the actual total was $24,541,116. And then in 2021, it's $25,768,171. So from 2021 to 2020, that represents a 5% increase that was to the proposed tax statements that have been mailed. You can see that these are split by fund. So the first one being the revenue, the second is road and bridge, the third is human services, Trailblazer Transit, Pioneer Land Library, and capital improvement. So the revenue, which of course is the largest, that would include items like payroll expenses, healthcare expenses, technology, and capital repairs. Minnesota Department of Revenue annual preliminary county levy changes report indicated Minnesota County's average levy increase was 2.9%. Next slide, please. So this slide shows if you have a change in your levy, how it could impact your tax statement. Off to the right, I've listed actually our largest township increase, which was Bergen at 17.24%. I've listed our largest city increase with 13.63%, and then I just listed the most populous cities of Glencoe and Hutchinson, just for reference. This snapshot of this tax statement happens to be a parcel in the city of Winstead. In both years of 2020 and 2021, the estimated market value was the same at $156,200. And so you can see that, so for the county portion there was not much change because the increase was approximately the same. In the city of Winstead, you can see where that increased, I wouldn't say significantly, but from $1,524.84 to $1,625.88. There was no state general tax, as this is not a commercial parcel. And then the school district actually went down for proposed 21 because it looks like they're having a referendum. By that verbiage on there, it may go up by the final. And then the countywide increase just a little bit. So you can see how the change in levy from the city of Winstead increased their taxes to be 1.9% higher than they were in 2020. Next slide, please. Oh, one other item on that. That's okay that you moved forward though. I did actually talk with the city of Winstead today. They are having their meeting tonight, and they are going to propose, as of today anyway, a 7.94% increase. So it's going down significantly from the 13.63%. Cities, of course, do have the option to lower their levies along with the counties. Okay, next slide, please. So a change in your homestead determination could impact your tax statement. This happens to be a parcel in Collins Township. It had the same estimated market value in 2020 and 2021 of $216,300. In 2020, they had a homestead, and then in 2021, that was removed and it was non-homestead. So you can see how that did really affect their taxes. I won't read all of the numbers, but it went the bottom line from $851.93 to $1,698, which was a 99.3% increase. Okay, next slide, please. The last comparison of a tax statement I have is the changes in value, how that can impact a tax statement. So this is a parcel in the city of Hutchinson in the commercial class rate for both years of 2020 and 2021. Their market value went from $482,100 to $604,600. I shouldn't say dollars, values are not dollars, excuse me. So you can see the bottom line then went from $18,392 to $23,150, and that was a 25.9% increase. Okay, next slide, please. This slide, I have listed the taxable market value, net tax capacity, tax increment, and local tax rate. So you can see the local tax rate here for McLeod County. This compares actual 2019, actual 2020, and proposed 2021. So our taxable market value has been increasing along with the capacity, of course, then, and then, excuse me, subtracting the tax increment to get to the local taxable tax capacity. Now, the local tax rate for McLeod County in 2019 was 58.888%. In 2020, it was 60.777%, and proposed for 2021 is 60.796%. The McLeod County 10-year average of the local tax rate is 57.419%. Next slide, please. On this, which I think is my final slide, I have the 2021 proposed levies per capita comparison. So this includes the 2021 levy per person based upon the 2019 population. McLeod ranks 38 out of 87 Minnesota counties. I have broken this down into, off to the left are the neighboring counties in the bright orange, and then McLeod County is in the middle at 717 per person. And then off to the right, there are similarly populated counties of McLeod County. So you can see where we fall in line with all of these counties.
Okay, Connie, looks like we have a question here at the podium. Go ahead, Tom.
Hi, Tom.
Hey, Connie. When we're viewing it here, your pictures and everything are up on the side of your slides, so we can't see all your slides. Can you make sure I get a copy of that?
Oh, absolutely.
And then I don't know if anybody else wants it, but half of it, not half of it, but a fourth of it's cut off for us.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
I will send you that, Tom, and then also just to note for everyone that this will be available on our website.
Perfect.
Mr. Chair, Doug Kruger, I had that same problem. If you take the cursor and hold it down and slide it over, then you got the full screen. It took me a while to figure it out, but then you will get the full screen. Thank you.
All right. Okay, we'll take a look at that, see if we can improve that for us here. Connie, anything else right now?
No, thank you.
Connie, do you want to go over what happened with the tax statements and why they got out so late this year?
Oh, certainly. So my target mail date of the proposed tax statements with the vendor was Friday, November 20th. My process is now sending both the test and live files of data to the vendor, which they then process and produce PDF. Typically, the PDFs are returned to me within a day or two, so this whole process takes maybe a week. This was not the case this year. For the first set alone, I waited 10 days for them to return the PDFs. And then after my final approval, they print the tax statements on the forms that they've already been delivered, and they mail them for us. They did experience significant delays of unknown reason. I have contacted them, and basically COVID was the only excuse that I had for them. I do apologize for the delay. And of course, I hope the public is understanding and keeping in mind the environment we are all living and working within. Any questions, though, resulting from the delay of the statements or on general may be directed to my office. As in the past, we in the Auditor Treasurer Office are here to respond to your individual questions and concerns. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Connie. And we as a county take responsibility for it. We would love to blame the vendor, but it's just not appropriate. And we'll do our best to improve that in the future. So we apologize for any of those inconveniences. All right, moving on in our presentation, we're under the administration tab. And Colleen, if you want to introduce yourself and go ahead with your presentation.
Yep, I'm Colleen Robeck, and I'm the finance director under administration. So here's the McLeod County budget summary report, and this is in fund totals only. The first half of the funds are going to be the ones that impact the tax levy. So for 2021, in the general fund, we are budgeting to have $21,086,121, $21,086,121 for revenue, and expenditures $21,279,284, using reserves of $193,163. In the road and bridge, we're budgeted to receive $10,074,351 in revenue and have expenditures of $13,544,89. There's a net to use fund balance of $3.4 million, and that will be for some lost projects, which we have the revenue that came in early 2020. So that money came in from bonding. So it is okay that we're using reserves there because that's what the money was set aside for. The social services fund, we will receive $12,996,833 and expenditures of $12,896,578. So building a small amount of reserves of $100,255. Debt service, we have revenue of $2,022,152 and expenses of $1,895,454. And that does build a little bit. We're required to collect more than the bond and interest payments. So subtotals on here. Oh, I have something here. Oh, I'm sorry. I should say what lost is. Our lost local option sales tax is what is making those bond payments on those projects. So it's local option sales tax for transportation. Thank you for that question. And then, so for the taxable fund or property tax revenues is 46. Oh, sorry. Okay, I just had a question here. Thank you, Morgan. Give you your phone number. Okay, so revenues 46,934,703 and expenditures 50,440,468. So that is using fund balance of $3.5 million. Next slide, please. So this is the remainder of the funds. Solid waste fund, we're budgeting to receive $1.9 million in revenue and spend a little over $2 million in expenses. Our special revenue funds, we're budgeted $755,000 for revenue and $828,662 in expenses. And then our capital projects, this would be what's left on the government center to spend. And then, so our total at the bottom here is what was approved for the preliminary budget for $48,872,305 in revenue, $53,424,382 in expenses. So that is using reserves of $4.5 million. Next slide, please. So McLeod County proposed revenue. This kind of just breaks down the percentages. So debt service is 4.1% of that, human services 26.6%, special revenue 1.5%, solid waste 4%, road and bridge 20%, and the general revenue fund 43.2%. So general revenue is at 21 million, road and bridge at 10 million, solid waste at 1.9, special revenue 755, human services 12,996,000, and debt service of a little over 2 million. So total revenues again is right here. Next slide, please. The McLeod County proposed 2021 expenditures. Then there's a breakdown here for the general revenue fund is 21,071,037. And then underneath there, it shows how it's broke down between general government, public safety, public health, culture and rec, conservation, natural resources, and economic development. And then below that, we have solid waste, road and bridge, trailblazer, special revenue, social services, regional library, debt service, and capital projects. So total expenses budgeted of $53,424,382. And then along with that, the percentage of the breakdown expenditures on the side. Next slide, please. This is our outside organization allocations that are approved. Again, asked for a 0% increase for those. And so we have for 2021, 16,000 going to McLeod for Tomorrow, 2,200 to Safe Avenues, 2,700 for Memorial Day costs, Southwest Minnesota Arts and Humanities Council, 1,500, Pioneer Library System, 208,247, United Community Action Partnership, 10,000, McLeod Alliance for Victims, 7,500, McLeod County Historical Society, 69,100, Southwest Minnesota Foundation, 6,490, Common Cup, 5,000, McLeod Emergency Food Shelf, 5,000. And next slide, please. Here, this is continued organization allocations. McLeod Soil and Water District, 82,750. McLeod County Treatment Program, 4,725. And then we have the Silver Lake Sportsman's Club, Winstead Watershed Lake Association, and Broughton Rod and Gun Club, each getting 2,500. Next slide, please. This is the capital request by department. So for 2021, the auditor treasurer requested 2,500 for printers and scanners, information technology, 190,000 for infrastructure, servers, and software, central services, 52,000 for 2 fleet vehicles, building services has 207,000 for air unit and courthouse chiller, fairgrounds has roof repairs, grandstand repairs, seal coat, parking lot, and bathroom upgrades, 205,000. Sheriff has 4 squads for 200,000. The jail has a copier, cell sense detector, tasers, and locks for 42,365. Emergency management has 6,000 for emergency equipment. Public health nursing, copier fax scanner for 12,000. Parks has a more resurfacing trails, pickup truck, playground equipment for 61,000. And environmental services has an elevator lift for 50,000. And next slide, please. This is the department requests for capital continued. Highway construction, engineering equipment for 5,000. Highway equipment maintenance, 2 tandem super trucks, a mower, and a pickup truck for 512,000. Material recoveries facility has 10,000 for new lighting. Income maintenance under social services is copier, computer, and laptops is 7,389, and social services 2,941. Recorders compliance has new property tax system 275,000. and then the government center, the remaining amount of the bonds to finish that government center. So a total of $2,816,109 is in the budget for capital requests. Next slide, please. This is McLeod County's general obligation notes and summary as of December 31st, 2020. So outstanding as of 2019, we had a total of $28,016,688. We've issued in 2020 $180,108, and that is for septic, clean water septic loan. And then we've paid in 2020 $1.9 million. So outstanding at the end of this year, we'll have $26,284,983 in debt outstanding. Next slide, please. So out of that debt, this top portion here is what's the associated with the property tax levy, $15,120,000 of that. Geo solid waste bonds, the $2.48 million is paid for out of solid waste. Geo drainage bonds of $1.969999 is special assessments. The transportation bonds are paid back through that local option sales tax. Ag BMP loans are $170,683, and those will be paid through special assessments. And general obligation note, Minnesota pollution control for septics is 1.194, and that's also through special assessments. Next slide, please. McLeod County gross tax levy comparison payable 2012 through to proposed 2021. In 2012, we had a 0% increase all the way through 15. And then in 16, we had a 2.73%, 2017 a 5%, 2018 a 7%, 2019 a 7.1%, and now in 2020 was 8.52%, and now we're at a 5% for the preliminary budget. It looks like I have a question, so should I turn that over to the podium?
Just a question. I noticed on a couple of slides before there was zero payments on the bond, on a couple of bonds, but I couldn't read them. Were they all transportation bonds from 2019?
Let's go back to, was that 2 ahead? 27, I think it was slide 27.
Transportation bond, capital improvement. Yeah, there was a Geo transportation bond 2019 that was zero paid, and then there was a capital improvement bond 2019 that had zero paid on.
Right, right. We issued those bonds in 2019, yep. So there was no payment for principal, only interest. So this is only recording our principal payments. So there would have been interest paid, but no bond premium payment.
Yep. And then when you get all done, can you let us know what's setting in reserve when all of this is done?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Can I go? I think I was 2 slides. Okay, thank you. So what I wanted to point out about this slide is in 2011, there was actually a negative increase. It actually went down. So what it looks like is if we would have just kept a small increase each year, then we wouldn't have ran into this higher increases in the last several years of 7 to 8%. So the reasoning behind this increase of 5% for the 2021 levy is just to get us up so that we have a balanced budget. Next slide, please. So some budget factors, some cost drivers that affect our budget. The county bears the cost of underfunded federal and state mandates. We have sustained increase in service demand, number of clients, citizen expectations for human services. We have payroll expenses, which are 45% of the total expenditures. at $24,052,957. We are a service organization, so that is our biggest expense. Rising healthcare expenses, our increase was 9% for 2021. And with our bargaining units coming to agreement, we split that 50-50 between the employee and the employer. Our cost of living increases and additional payroll taxes also through negotiation, we are at a 3% increase for 2021. And we did have a decrease in county program aid. We have an increase in debt service levy schedule, capital expenses of $2.8 million, and building repairs, information technology software purchases, and maintenance agreements. All these are additional costs of the county. And then some of the cost relievers are the CARES Act funding that we received and the focus that our HR and administrator have on reducing personnel costs. When people quit, they try to, they evaluate positions so that they can do a cost analysis and maybe save some money. Focus on reducing long-term costs where possible. And that was the main reason for trying to go with the government center so that we could reduce repairs on the outdated buildings. And then also our local option sales tax, we budgeted $1.8 million for 2021, which covers the bond and principal and interest. There's $3.6 million budgeted for local option sales tax projects in 2021 for concrete overlays on CASA 115 and CASA 3. Next slide, please. So the McLeod County Government Center renovations update. We issued bonds in 18 and 19 totaling $14,020,589. And with that, to purchase the properties surrounding and renovate the building. To date, we have spent $9.5 million of that, and we are expected to come in at or below budget. Next slide, please. So our financial management of McLeod County, we do have a AA credit rating by Standard & Poor's. We have an unqualified opinion by the State Auditor's Office for the annual audits, which affirms the county's accuracy. And we got recognized by the Minnesota Department of Human Services for exceptional collaboration and on-time reporting. Next slide, please. So if there's any public questions and comments, if you could provide your name and address followed by your question.
Colleen, can you answer the reserves question, please?
Yes, what we have to date. So for 2020, we will be sitting with reserves for the general fund of $11,962,714. So average monthly expenditures of the following year is what we want to look at for staying within our fund balance policy. And that is 1.773274 is our monthly expenditures. So we're sitting at 6.75 months. And that's what we want to be at. We want to have 6 months in reserves for the following year's expenditures. And then for road and bridge, we are sitting with monthly expenditures and fund balance. We have 8 months. And then solid waste, we have 11 months. And social services, we have 7 months worth.
Okay. Colleen, anything else? Otherwise, I think Barrett is still here, our Health and Human Services Director. I'd like to give her a few minutes if she wants. Barrett, are you still on the call?
I sure am.
Do you have anything you can help us with? I mean, for better or worse, you are the biggest part of our budget. So.
Sure, I can. I put together just some kind of highlights of what things that are state mandated services that are county funded. So these are the items that we are mandated to do and provide, and we want to do them for our residents of McLeod County, but they take a significant part of the Health and Human Services budget. So those things would be detox. That is just a costly service. Our inpatient adult mental health care, such as our regional treatment centers and our community behavioral health hospitals. State does pay a portion of that one, but the most of the responsibility is to the county. Day training and habilitation centers, or DT&Hs as they're sometimes called, that can be a pretty high one, but luckily McLeod County, we're currently not spending a lot of dollars in that area because we are able to utilize home and community-based services waivers to fund that. So that's been good. Another high cost area for us is out-of-home placement for children. And in August of this year, we were only at 50% of our budget. So while that is a costly expense for us, this year we are a little bit behind in spending in that area. So.
Okay, Barrett, thank you very much.
Yeah, I entertain any questions if anyone has any.
Very good. All right. Again, use the chat feature if you can, or get my attention, however you want. Sheila, I have you on the agenda. Anything you need to add or that goes through this? Sheila, I'll have you live here. And Tony, I see your question. Just give me a second.
Okay.
Go ahead, Sheila.
Thank you. So I think that we have a terrible echo. I apologize. Can everyone hear me okay, or is the echoing too bad?
I can hear you, Sheila.
Thank you, Hannah. So I just want to thank all of the staff who took the time to prepare this information to make sure that it was in front of us for tonight. I was looking at a lot of numbers, which can be overwhelming, but all of this information is going to be shared on our website afterwards. We are proud of the government center being on budget, and yes, it is being renovated, and not just to avoid repairs, but to avoid investing in those outdated facilities. Some of the things that would need to be done, like replacing the entire roof, could cost the county around $500,000, and I don't think a lot of people realize the amount of the cost that could be passed on to the county for maintaining those facilities. They are of good use. They do have life left in them for other uses, but for us to utilize them correctly would require changes. And they will be for sale shortly, as you heard about in our county board meeting today. We plan to move into our government center at the end of January. Our staff has done a good job. We are on schedule, and thank you, Mr. Chair. I have nothing else to add.
Very good. Tony, go ahead with it. Tony, go ahead with your question.
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Oh, okay, couple questions. Some of these go back a little bit, so I apologize. Maybe I should have caught some of these sooner, but so there was a new sales tax that was proposed that I think is going to be helping with road and bridge projects. Is that supposed to be hitting our revenues for 2021, or when is that supposed to be coming in?
That's
yeah,
already.
It's coming in already.
That's coming in already.
Okay.
Sorry, Mr. Chair. Yeah, we've already collected 1.5 million, and it really looks like we'll come in at budget of 1.9, because we're usually 2 months behind on that revenue coming in. So we'll get December's in February of next year, but it'll still come back towards. So we're right on target. We're gonna get 1.9 to 2 million in that revenue for 2020, and I don't foresee it being any different in 2021. So that money does pay back the bonding, and that is a 5-year return for that debt. So that 5 million that we bonded for in 19 for the local road projects will be paid back within 5 years. So after that should be a tax levy savings if we keep that sales that local option sales tax.
Okay. Thank you. So next question. Back in the presentation, I talked about there being exclusion and exemptions in the tax entities. And I think actually Sue or Connie, I don't remember who was talking about that. What type of items are excluded or exempted? Can you maybe give some examples?
Connie, I think that was you. Can you help us with that?
Sure. So actually, one that just right off the top of my head would like a veterans exclusion where they wouldn't pay taxes on their value. And actually the Veterans Office and Sue works with those folks.
So let me maybe ask another question. So then, like when cities are putting in these industrial parks and they're giving tax exemptions that defer out 5 and 10 years, does that defer just the city taxes, or does that just defer the county taxes also?
So if you're talking about a TIF district, the taxes are actually paid still by the public. The dollars that are collected from that, the increment, are paid to the TIF district for their project, whether it be the housing development or, or redevelopment or whatever the TIF district was established for.
So when you say it's still paid though, so let's say like Broughton put an industrial park in, and is the city of Broughton paying for that TIF district, or is the county of McLeod paying for that TIF district? The
city, whoever that establishes the TIF district pays the expenses of the TIF district, but excuse me, I can't get that word out for some reason. But the taxes are still taxed and paid to the TIF district.
Okay. Next question, and this one might be, I'm not sure if this is to Sue or Connie, but I noticed on some of the homestead exclusions that the exclusion is being reduced by, at least from what I've seen, about 8% from 2020 to 2021. Is that across the board, or what's causing that reduction?
Well, the homestead exclusion is based on value, and then it tiers out as the higher the value goes, the less the exclusion. It maxes out at $76,000 of value for a property, and so that's where the high point is at. So that's where you get the most value, most excluded value. Once you reach approximately $413,000 in value, that excluded value goes away. It no longer, the property no longer qualifies for it. So it's basically based on value, and then it lowers as the value goes up.
Okay, thank you.
That's a state calculation.
Yes,
okay.
That's a state calculation, yes.
Okay. And then the one thing I noticed I can't remember who was presenting this, but it talks about Parks and Rec, and then there was resurfacing of trails. Where do we have any trails that we have to resurface in the county?
I'm going to let either John Brunkford or if Al's on the call, answer that one.
Yeah, I can speak for that. That was for granite material, just for some of the trails through Stalls Lake Park, through Pippenberg, just some of the smaller trails, not the big regional trails or anything. It was for the smaller trails through the parks.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Those
you.
are all my questions, John.
Thank you, Tony.
All right, Tony, thank you very much. All right, we're still at the place for public comment discussion, not that we've limited it throughout the presentation, but is there anyone on the call that has any questions that would like to bring it before the board now? The audience isn't jumping to the podium right now here at the fairgrounds. So,
Mr. Chair, Mr. Dahl came up. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Mr. Dahl, I had a question. He wanted to know if I could give a rough estimate summary on the CARES Act dollars.
Yeah, that'd be fine. Please, if you can.
Thank you. So I am preparing a press release for our local media to share with everyone, and also for us to share with everyone on our website and social media. to let you know where the final allocation of all of those dollars ended up at, with a general summary. It didn't change a lot from anything that we've done. The one change that we did make is infuse $500,000 more dollars into the business and nonprofit grant funding program, which went very well. It was 100% utilization, over 100%. The recipients who submitted their eligible documentation for their eligible expenses within the time frame allotted received 95.66% payment for the business and nonprofit grant program. And those payments are sent out today. So today is the last day to send out payments at the county level. So today the county paid out all of those grants, paid back all of the townships or cities that ran their programs through us and needed reimbursement for the expenditures they had, and also paid the county emergency response expenses as well today, along with PHB Accountant Office in Hutchinson. So what we'll do is break down what types of businesses and organizations that those grant dollars went to. So letting you know a percentage of restaurants and churches and other types of businesses is what we intend to share with that press release, and just really wrapping everything up. So Tom Dahl is in the audience. Tom, did you have any other questions, or does that complete? He says that completes what they were looking for. So just a real quick note, because I know some of our townships and cities are watching who worked with us on that program. They were outstanding. They came to us with a lot of questions. Our staff did a great job, and our commissioners did a great job helping us along that process. So we are happy that it is December 1st and we are done with that round of funding. But we know that there are a lot of businesses in our communities that are hurting, and that didn't give them everything that they need to keep going, of course. So we just encourage our citizens to continue to support local business and hope that things improve after December 18th. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, I have a comment. Joe? Just following up with Sheila's report on the CARES funding, as I watched how other counties approach this, some of them absorb quite a bit of it into their own expense to try and reduce the levy. And, that's something that we take care of year by year. Our approach on this was to push a lot of those dollars out into the community. And we pushed it out into schools, our community partners, and we really took those dollars and we spent them outwards. And I had the opportunity to serve on that committee, and I'm very proud of our board to be taking that approach. I think that's what those stimulus dollars were intended for. And I think that we did a very good job on that. I know there was a question that came up on the chat. Was there any dollars returned to the state? And we had full utilization here without returning any dollars back from the county. So,
thank you, Commissioner Wright. Commissioner Wright, anything else you want to add? I'm going to go through all the commissioners. Just a second, Doug. Commissioner Wright, anything else you want to add?
No, I think we covered everything as best as we could tonight. It's very difficult to have a meeting with constituents in this environment, and we're trying to show all the numbers that we've done in the past. A lot of our costs that we incur at the county are things that we cannot stop through the mandates, and a lot of those are dollars that need to be spent. I know there's frustration from how taxes go up, and people definitely need to get a hold of us and to have that process explain exactly what did it. A lot of times it's the evaluations, perhaps there's a classification change or something that happened within their homestead credits. Those are things that we just need to walk through, and we definitely see some large increases happen, and it's important that people come forward and ask, why did this happen? What's happening with my tax statements? That's it.
Commissioner Kruger, go ahead.
Yes, I just wanted to comment on Commissioner Wright's statement on the CARES funding. We had an excellent committee. Commissioner Wright and myself were on that committee, and we're also on budgets, and we had the conversation. And obviously, the county came first on the CARES Act. We did the best we could with everyone that turned in qualifying receipts. Our staff went way over and above, and that's all I really had to say. We did the best we can. I just wish we were through the worst of it. We still have suffering businesses and a lot of things going on. So I'm just praying for a better 21. Thanks.
All right, Commissioner Polmeyer, anything?
I would just echo what Commissioner Kruger and Commissioner Wright have said. I think through the CARES Act, we were able to infuse a lot of money into the county. I applaud the rest of our staff for putting together a very good budget for the coming year. It's maybe not exactly what we want, but it's probably what we need. And I think we're in good hands, and we need to keep supporting all of our local and small businesses in the area and keep promoting McLeod County as one of the best places to live, work, and enjoy and recreate in. So with that, I'll thank everyone for your support.
Commissioner Szymanski?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, through the years, we've always said what we need is economic development in McLeod County to expand our tax base. And we have that process working for us. We can see it incrementally growing. I'm hearing my own echo, so it's really distracting me. But I do want to thank all the ladies for their presentation here tonight. Not only the ladies, all the gentlemen as well, excuse me. But you know, everyone presented the numbers, answered a lot of questions. Running this meeting by Zoom is unique. In some ways, it's a miracle that we can pull this all together. I thank our administrative staff for doing that. I had blanked out here for a few minutes during the meeting because my laptop died, but we got it remedied and we're back online again. But all in all, I think this has been a good meeting. I appreciate everybody's input, and I look forward to seeing this process continue in the years to come. So thanks, everyone.
All right, we'll wrap it up here. The preliminary levy was set at 5%. We'll readjust the budget on December 15th at our regular board meeting and discuss it there. We can go down, we cannot go up. The tax statement I have in my notes here, the tax statements we addressed, we're also going to try to do a better job of making sure when those preliminary statements go out that people are aware of those so that they know what the process is to appeal or discuss or whatever they need to do. Just simply ask some questions regarding what's going on with those. We're not going to sit here and save any postage and try to fool anybody on those. So we're going to do a little bit better job of getting those out and making sure people see those that need to, so that those questions can be asked and they can be part of the process in a timely manner. Because I think that's kind of what happens a little bit every year at this meeting. The timing of it, people get the mail and then they want to know what's going on. But we can work on that. We always have room for improvement too. Again, we'll address the budget overall on December 15th. That'll give us some time if we need to call a special meeting and discuss it further. With that, I see no more action that needs to come before this Truth and Taxation hearing. Hearing and still seeing none, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn, Mr. Chair.
Motion by Commissioner Szymanski. Is there a second?
Second, Polmeyer.
Second by Commissioner Polmeyer. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. Commissioner Szymanski?
Yes.
Commissioner Wright?
Yes.
Commissioner Kruger?
Yes.
Commissioner Polmeyer?
Yes.
Commissioner Nagel is yes. Motion carries 5-0. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Have a good and safe